Hola! Welcome to the Badass Actors and Writers page of thedreamunlocked.com. I am April Yvette Thompson, CEO of thedreamunlocked.com, just boutique coaching for actors, writers, and dreamers. And today I am going to be answering questions. Just give you a little background about The Dream Unlocked. I am a Tony-winning producer, actor, writer, and thinker, blogger. I don't know. I just do a little bit of everything that has to do with storytelling and people learning how to rewrite their stories. I went to undergrad as an English major at Vassar College and Love and Shakespeare. And became an activist for the Children's Defense Fund. I was doing arts and education training for children in disadvantaged communities and creating after-school programming. What else have I done? At a certain point in my career, my mentors are watching me teach, and they're like, "You're an artist." And I was like, "I don't have permission to be an artist. I am a kid from the projects. I gotta grow up and buy my mama a house and get a safety job." And in the course of that, working as an activist and a community organizer and watching Whoopi Goldberg testify in front of Congress about the Leave No Child Behind bill for the Children's Defense Fund and the power that she wielded in 10 minutes. I was like, wow, I can be an artist and be an activist, be a storyteller. So I trained as an actor. I got my MFA in acting from Rutgers. And each step of the way, I made it my business to master what it is to tell story, what it is to be a journalist of the human condition. I think that story has the power to change the world, because Barack Obama won the election because he told his story and related it to the stories of everyday Americans. He had a grandma, right? He had a grandma who lost her job at the factory. That's what he went on the road and talked about and listened to people. Story is incredibly powerful because most people are acting out from a place of nobody's listening to my story, which is why they're acting badly, right? They're unheard. It's why theater is so powerful, or at least it once was, when we could see vulnerable visions of ourselves, human beings struggling with the same things we were struggling with, and watching them overcome that gives the audience the catharsis and the belief and the hope that they can too. It creates empathy. It's a very powerful tool for change. Hi, Hillary. How are you, honey? Hillary is the face of the Dream Unlocked, Dreaming Out Loud technique. And I just had a client today tell me, "Oh my God, that woman makes me so happy. I love that picture. I'm gonna do whatever she says." And I was like, yeah, she's the happy one. So that's who I am, I think, in like a little nutshell. So I trained as an actor. I learned how to do it. I really believe in getting training and learning how to do the things that you say you're gonna do really, really well. So I went and got my FA. I did Shakespeare with the acting company. Then I wanted to move into film, and the training that I had was for theater, not for film. So I hired a coach for 2 years, and I learned how to handle the camera. And at the same time, I learned how to produce. I learned how to make films. I learned how to raise money. I learned all these great things because I realized that if I'm going to be a storyteller, not just an actor or an interpreter of other people's stories, I have to learn the business of this so that I have control over the story being told, right? Because the reason I went into business was to tell story, not to be famous, not to blow up, but to be great at being a teacher and using storytelling as my method of teaching. So every step of the way, I got a coach, took on a job and learned how to do it. That's how I learned how to produce for Simon Says Entertainment and took 4 films to Sundance. That's every step of the way. It's how I learned to write, which while I was producing, I was learning to write, co-writing with another brilliant playwright. And all along, the methodology of teaching has never left me. because that's where I started. I mean, I believe
I'm sorry.
Ooh, Siri is jumping in. I believe that once you know your mission, it shapes everything that you do. It shapes the stories you tell. It shapes the roles you take. It shapes the jobs you decide to take instead of pursuing your dreams. It does all that, you know? Purpose, mission. I now live in Morocco after taking a trip here last year because I read in a book about the Amazigh, or the Berber women of Morocco, and their very early independence in the matriarchal culture. And I love the art. I love the spirit of the free people, which is what Amazigh or nomad or Bedouin means, free people. So I knew I always wanted to visit here. I loved the art and the music and the food, and the jewelry and the colors and pace. So I visited, felt completely at home, and made a statement to the universe that I was moving. And a year later, here I am. People ask me, are you going to write? Are you going to act? I was like, I am going to do what I was put here to do. Tell story and teach other people how to tell story. So that's what I'm here doing. I believe all things are possible. You just have to state them and then move all your bullshit out of the way. That's keeping you from going there. So if my cat, Aisha, will actually let me get to my computer, I am going to answer some questions for you guys, because I asked folks to fill out a short survey, which I will post in the link here, or you can go to thedreamunlock.com and sign up for the writer's stuff or the actor's stuff, and we'll send you the survey and you can fill it out. And once you fill out the survey, I will come online and answer your questions. It's really pretty simple. Natasha Young gave me some amazing questions, which are below this video. And the question that I get a lot is about where to start as a writer. And Natasha is an actor / writer, which is exactly what I was. I get that. I get that you are going out for roles and you're like, this is cool, but I only got one good role, one meaty role, one role that moves me, one role that is in line with what I believe, my values, what I understand about the world, how I'm built emotionally. Every now and then we get parts like that. And it's because we're not telling the stories, right? So it's a natural progression for an actor to become a writer. It's just natural. It's natural. And the technique that I use for everything that I teach, it's a place that I've figured out after a long examination of the kind of work I've made, from my plays, Liberty City, to Good Bright Alley, to the movies I've produced, Blue Caprice, Mother of George, the Broadway play that I was a producer on, Porgy and Bess, with Audra McDonald on the Tony. Every piece of work that I've done has a particular through line. It's in line with my core values, right? And it was when I was nominated to do a TED Talk. I did not pursue it. I was like, TED don't want to hear me cuss. But apparently somebody did. So the challenge was when I was nominated for a TED Talk and I accepted. TED gives you a subject. It may not have been anything you were thinking about. It may not, and they have people who are everything from scientists to doctors to social workers to teachers to actors to musicians that they bring together for a TED session, and they give everybody the same topic. And it was in struggling to write that speech that I realized I had a through line to all of my work, to all of the stories that I told, to all the stories I was drawn to. And the reason that I was able to tell story, the reason I was able to enter into a particular character, the reason I was able to write about certain characters that were beyond my experience as a playwright, right? As a human being even, is because there is an emotional calling in all of the work that I do. So when people tell me they're struggling to get started, or they're telling me that there's a block, I'm like, you're not in tune with what your calling is as a teller of story. Because that's all an artist is. You're telling a story to make people feel something, right? Whether it's a painting or a song, or the way you create your own online business, the colors you choose for your website, the way you approach people in your email sales, the way you approach a set of sides as an actor when you get sides and you have 15 minutes to figure out the whole life of a neurosurgeon that you've never been. The choices that we make, the dreams that we decide to pursue are all driven by our 4 major emotional cords. And that's what getting that assignment of the TED Talk was about. I realized writing came to me. My very first play that I wrote was produced off Broadway. That doesn't happen. And I realized that it was because I was writing from my deepest sense of self, by the deepest part of my core values were what I was writing about, right? Because I had figured out why I was put here. And I figured out that I actually had a methodology. When I thought I was just wandering around aimlessly, I actually wasn't wandering around aimlessly. I was creating a methodology. It's a methodology that, I started working on when I was teaching kids after school programs, and conflict resolution. It's the same methodology that I taught during the Dreaming Morocco retreat, which just ended this past weekend. 17 days, 5 American women, 8 Moroccan women toured the country and culminated in 2-day Dreaming Out Loud technique retreat. And those are everywhere from a minister to women who run Argan cooperatives, to women who are consultants and grant writers, to women who are producers, to women who run Berber rug cooperatives here in Morocco. I mean, it was about finding your voice by figuring out what your blocks are, what you were put here to do, and then sort of role-playing out the things that are blocking you and rewriting the story of how you can get through that, right? So for getting anything done, that actually is my methodology. And in my TED Talk, I'll lay it out. If you want it broken down, you can go to thedreamunlocked.com and sign up for the Dreaming Out Loud technique, and we will send you the mini course that breaks down the TED Talk step by step by step. It's a 3-step process. And the first step is to get in touch with the things that call to you that you are ignoring. See, because those are the things that you should be writing about, but you think there's a way in your head that it's supposed to come out of your mouth, so you're stuck instead of writing from your soul song, from the things that are inherently the life lessons you were put here to learn. And the Dreaming Out Loud technique is about sorting out what those life lessons story you make. That's it. It's the soul song you were put here to learn. It's your true node north. It is the set of conflicts that you were put here to resolve in this lifetime that you didn't get right in the last time. Or within your ancestral memory, it is the same mistake that your ancestors have been making over and over and over and over again for decades. And they have finally put together enough tools to give you the tools to move past that life lesson. That's what you're here to do. Once you figure out what that is, every decision you make in your life becomes easier. Every choice becomes easier. Every story that you have in your head that is no longer in alignment with who you are and what you're put here to do disappears. Writer's block disappears. The inability to remember your lines going into an audition disappears. The inability to leave a job that is drowning you and not serving your highest good and not paying you enough to live on. When you know why you were put here, all things that limit you become unimportant. It's easy to say no and walk away without explanation because you don't owe an explanation to things that no longer serve you. That's not why you're put here, right? It's part of why I left America. It's no longer serving me for now. It might start serving me again later. My agent asked me about this. She's like, well, what are you going to do? That's like when somebody makes me an offer I can't refuse, I'll come back. But until then, that's how I'm running my entire life. I was put here to tell a story. Anything that comes to me as an offer that's not in line with that serves no purpose. It's not a part of my purpose. So when the thing that is right for me, that is in alignment with my core values, comes along, it finds me, because that's what I'm sending out to the universe, this offer will be easy. It will be like the last acting job I got for it. I simply stated who I was by creating a website, and went out in the world and did it. And actually, it was for the television show Bull on CBS. The director actually watched my TED Talk. I mean, he looked at my acting reel, but he watched my TED Talk, which is who I am and what I was put here to do and what I'm good at, right? And that's how he cast me. So your dreaming out loud is about finding what those 4 major life lessons are, what your purpose are, so it directs your work. Now, Natasha asked, how do you get started? Well, you're going to go through the first lesson of Dreaming Unlocked, thedreamunlocked.com. It is writing down 100 things that you love, 100 things that you're proud of, 100 things that you're afraid of, 100 things that give you sheer pleasure, 100 these things that make you laugh, 100 things. That's the first lesson, right? If it is hard to write these things that are your birthright, that's where you're getting stuck in the story of you. That's where you're getting stuck and trying to figure out, what is this job that I'm going to create for myself? What is this online business that I'm going to start up to get passive income? You don't know where to start. It's because you haven't sourced you, your greatest asset. You haven't taken a look inside and said, what do I love? What am I proud of? Because each one of those things is a story waiting to be told, right? And if you talk about 100 things that I love, you're going to talk about cookies and babies and ice cream, but you're also going to talk about your kid, or that story your mom told you about when you were 6 and you learned to ride the bike. And that's when characters enter. So you make these lists, these 100 things. Put them on little pieces of paper. You put them in your wish jar, your dreaming out loud jar, whatever you want to call it. And every morning you pick out a slip of paper and you record yourself telling a story. You can write it. I like recording it. Either way. Every day. It doesn't have to be complicated, right? You pull out one that says ice cream. Tell me a 60-second story about the last ice cream you had, right? And because when you're speaking or writing from some place that you're emotionally connected to, character and story happen naturally. So get out of your head about what you're supposed to be writing. I get this all the time from writers who are like, well, I want to write historical fiction. I want to write about Harriet Tubman. I want to write about Sojourner Truth. I want to write about, I'm like, okay, why? What do you have in common with them? What do you have to illuminate about their lives? You're not them. And you don't know what you have to illuminate about their lives because you don't know the life lessons you were put here to figure out, right? So say I had a client today talking about one of his emotional cords, and he said that his cord was people with hidden powers. I thought it was so beautiful. Hidden powers. That he is drawn to stories about people with hidden powers. The unexpected hero. The one that everybody passes by and thinks they're powerless. Ends up being the person who saves the day. Because they don't carry their power around with a big sign and talk about it. It just is. And it serves a purpose. It's not about them. It's about the world. I thought that was a beautiful chord. So say that's your chord. Then if you decide to do a solo show or a play or a screenplay about Harriet Tubman, and let me tell you, scripts have been pitched to me. I've read some fantastic scripts as a producer about Harriet Tubman. Everybody enters that story from a different place. It's like if you watch the Che Guevara movie and then you watch Motorcycle Diaries. One's about when he was a young kid becoming the idealist, and the other one was about what idealism looked like in his midlife when he put it into action. Everybody enters the story of who they are from a different place, right? I recently had a client tell me that her emotional cord was feeling like she didn't have a voice. And I was like, so how would that impact you? What's your business gonna be? What is your business gonna be? She wanted to start an online business where she could teach something, but she said she didn't know anything. I was like, so if your emotional cord is you feel drawn to women who are in the midst of finding their voices, I think that's what you're doing with your life. And she's like, I don't understand. I was like, you're a singer. all of your songs are about women on a journey of self-discovery. She's like, how do you know that? I was like, because I'm paying attention to what you're not. I'm paying attention to the story you're telling me of your life, the story you're telling me of you, the struggle you had to become a singer. And now you're going to get on YouTube and you're going to start talking to other women looking for their voice like that. And you're going to start with one simple lesson, just a couple of chords to help them find their voice. Or you're going to start with a breathing exercise and you record it on YouTube. And you'll do 3 little short videos like that about finding your voice. And then you will offer an online class and you're going to teach women how to find their voices. It's all within, it's already there. It's the same thing with writers. If you go into that dream jar and you tell me, oh my gosh, I pulled out ice cream. And the story about ice cream that you tell me is about, you know, your 4th grade teacher who was the art teacher in the crazy macrame schmuck and a gray hair who would give everybody ice cream after they painted for the day, just expressing themselves. And then I say, okay, now tell me that story from her point of view. My crazy art teacher was Mrs. Marcus. Hi, April. Mrs. Marcus was this amazing character, and I'm kind of growing up to be her, and I'm okay with that. She was like the 55-year-old child. She was an eternal child, and she wore muumuus to class, and she wore big wooden earrings and Mayan bracelets. She was this fabulous Jewish lady, and she was like, express, come to the page and just pour everything you have on the page. And we've got like hand paints and Crayolas, and we're just like pressing it. We're like 4th grade, what do we know? But we're pouring our soul into it. But you know what? I remember her. The story of her moved me. I'm an artist now. And in recalling that story, I recorded it. Became the source of a short film, right? So if you're going to this jar every day and pulling out things that you love and you're telling a story, I guarantee if you do that every day, you'll have like 30 stories at the end of the month and at least 60 to 150 pages written with full character development. Why? Because the characters, you're sourcing them from your rich emotional life. You remember stories about people who made you feel something deeply, people who saw you for the first time, people who hurt you for the first time, people who took your innocence, people who made you believe that you could do anything. When you start sourcing the things that are already within you and paying attention to them, writing, character development, that becomes easy because you already know these people, because you were put here to learn 4 major life lessons that have to do with the human condition. You already know what the broken places are in humanity. You already know the story that needs to be rewritten about them. It's within you. My Dreaming Out Loud technique basically just gives you the tools to pull it out in a way that you're like, oh, this is writing. Writing don't always happen on a page. Some people are great editors, but they're walking around being paid as writers. Hello, I said that. That doesn't make them a great writer. It doesn't. Narrative, structure, deep, complicated characters that come from a compassionate imagination, from someone who is compassionately and deeply examining the human condition. And then they learn the structure of storytelling so they can take that inner wisdom and pour it into a form that the rest of us can share in that story. That's what the Dreaming Out Loud technique is about. It's plain and simple. So that's where you start with character. Make those lists, pull them out of the jar once a day, and tell me a story about them. The first thing that comes to mind, if you belabor it, you're not working from your instinct and from your deep inner wisdom, which we all have, right? I'm just giving you that little push. I'm giving you permission to let it just blow out of your mouth and then trust that we'll put it into a structure. That's how I write. That's how I teach writing, right? I'm not imposing some technique on you. I'm actually listening to what you're offering and giving you a structure to pour it into. That's it, plain and simple. So, Natasha, does that give you a start? I'm gonna post this link here. And I want you to go in and do the first 3 mini courses here. Now, if you want some guidance from me to do this, sign up for my mailing list at thedreamunlock.com. Sign up for the Dreaming Out Loud technique for writers, or the Dreaming Out Loud technique for dreamers, or the Dreaming Out Loud technique for actors. And I will not only send you the mini course, there's a 3 mini course called Dreaming Out Loud technique, right? And then once you've completed that, I will send you the Dreaming Out Loud technique that is tailored to what your interests are. So if you're an actor, I'll send you that one. If you're a writer, I'll send you that one. If you are someone in midlife trying to create your own business and you're dreaming about it, I will send you the mini course for dreamers. So to recap that, you're gonna get this Dreaming Out Loud technique, the general technique from my TED Talk with all the 3 major steps. You have to do all those steps before you can move to the targeted, right? And in January, I will be releasing private coaching packages, an online class, and then a live class, a mastermind group with me. However, and it will be pricey. My client, Angela Lewis, who's the star of Snowfall, was like, you do this. And she took writing and acting with me. And the Dreaming Out Loud technique was, she has been telling me for years, you must organize this methodology and teach it widely. And so that's what I'm doing in the new year. Now, the good news is, I think it's $2,400, I think, for the live class. The good news is, if you act now before the new year, you'll get the discounted rate, which is the workshop version. We haven't put it into a set format yet. It's just the content step by step. If you buy it now, you buy it, I think, for a little under $1,000. It's a 12-month course, and it comes with monthly live Q&As like this one where you can comment or you can email us. Between now and January 1st, it will be at a discounted price. So tag me in the comments if that's something you're interested in. You gotta act fast, because there will be a limited amount of spots that I will give away at this discounted price. And again, it'll be less than $1,000. But it won't be that way in January. So, Natasha, you had another question. How do you balance being an artist who's a performer along with being a writer? Well, I actually pick one thing to concentrate on at a time. And I believe that you should master one thing at a time. Okay? So the Dreaming Out Loud technique, when you start writing about the things that you love, that you're proud of, the physical step that you have to do after those lists is to then direct your attention to only those things that come up in your list. And here's how that goes. So I said, I want to play parts that little 6-year-old black girls will watch, and it will change how they see the world. They'll no longer see the limits of the color of their skin. I want to do parts like that. So guess what that means? It means that when my agent then sends me audition for a crack whore, I say no, because that's not in line with the things I've been dreaming out loud. See, because dreaming out loud is manifesting shit like a motherfucker. That's basically all it is. It's learning how to focus your attention on the things that are deeply connected to your soul song, that are the reasons why you were here. I am not here to be a crackhead on prime time. I am here to change little girls' stories about who they can be. So that changes all the things that I give my time to. All of them. All of them. I'm no longer wasting my time running to auditions. See, because I figured this thing out about acting and writing is that as a writer, you spend 25 hours a month trying to get produced. Grant applications, okay? Residency applications, going on writing retreats where nobody's paying you, right? Going to read-ins and all that free shit you do that you don't get paid for, that's actually not helping you become a great artist. That's kind of like what I figured out. It's not. Because the people getting produced, their first play, they didn't get paid for. After that, they've been getting paid. I said it, right? The playwrights that are getting produced are getting paid and getting paid well because they expect to get paid. The actors that are on prime time are in prime time because they refuse to work for free. Did you get that? When's the last time you were in let's say a commercial audition or a pilot season audition? Let me tell you a secret. Psst. Theater actors, when you go in for those auditions, you're the only theater actor. There might be one other. Everybody else are actors you've never seen before in your type. Why? Because people who feel like they deserve to be paid $10,000 a week to be on TV only do jobs that pay them $10,000 a week. I know this sounds miraculous. I just discovered it this year. I just decided I'm not getting out of bed for less than $10,000. When I decided that, I booked 2 jobs on offer to pay me $10,000 each. What you allow will continue. So there isn't actually a matter of feeling a tug of war between your writing and, being an actor. If you know why you were here, if you have sourced out the stories that you were meant to tell based on the life lessons you were put here to learn, then you will only have time to focus on them. Because every morning you'll be writing about them because story will be pouring out of you like Victoria Falls. And you won't be on the C train for an hour and a half getting to an audition at Chelsea Piers, then to sit for another half hour, 45 minutes, then to return on the train. You spent 3 hours on the train. Those 3 hours on the train, you could have finished Act 2 of your play. See how that works? I actually sat down and wrote down the amount of time I spent doing everything I do, and I realized how much free time I had. I wrote down how much time I spent on the internet. I wrote down how much time I spent in social media. I wrote down how much time I spent on Joy. I wrote down how much time I spent preparing for auditions. I wrote down how much time I spent traveling to auditions. And then I wrote down how much money I made as a result of those auditions. Guess what? And let's not even get into free readings and workshops. Oh, well, then the playwright will see you. The playwright will see you and put you on another free reading, and then another free reading, and then another free reading, and then maybe 10 years down the road, they'll put you in the actual play or not. And when they put you in the actual play, you'll make $400 a week. So let's look at that for just a minute. So you've spent 10 years helping them to develop this for free. Countless readings. Let's just say, I don't know, that's 5 years of work in hours of time you spent doing those readings, doing those workshops, traveling to do that. You've given them 2 years' salary developing their play, so you could then do the play and make $400 a week. So if you're having a hard time figuring out writing, acting, it's because you're doing too much shit for free. And like I told Hillary Ward, like I told Angela Lewis and Modesta Lawson, get your ass to LA, do the work you were put here to do, and be paid for your work. There is nothing noble about not being paid for your talent. That's always my answer when artists tell me they don't have time, because that's bullshit. It's the same exact thing with my life coaching clients who are like, I really want to start this online business, but I don't have time, and I got to clean my house, and da-da-da-da. I was like, write down how you spent your time this week. Well, I was in church this many times, and then for my sorority, I volunteered for this, and I was like, oh, so you really don't want to have business. You want to do your church. You want to volunteer at the church for 15 different things that are not online with your dream of starting your own online business, a resource center for women, right? Write down how much time you spent in that church. Write down how much time you spent in that after-school program. Write down how much time you spent arguing with the same girlfriend who doesn't support you. Write down how much time you spent posting memes on social media. Write down how much time you spent arguing with a boss who hasn't given you a raise in 3 years. Write down how much time. And then write down how much time you spent working on your business and creating your online courses. Right? If it's not done, it's because you're not in line with your core values. You actually have not prioritized your dreams. When you prioritize them, all the time in the world appears. Cleaner ladies show up. Kids learn how to go join baseball teams so you can write or build your website. All kinds of things happen. When you get over thinking you're not worth prioritizing, when you get over making yourself small, which is, ooh, women do that. Women do that. I'm gonna get off this phone in a minute. This is live in a minute, but let me say this. Here's how I know women do that all the time. Because I asked women stories. I asked them, okay, so how did you feel when that happened in the workspace? How did you feel? And what I get is this 5-minute soliloquy, and it's a story, but it's never about her. It's about the other people. So when I ask you what you're feeling and then you tell me a story about somebody else, it means you're so far removed from what you're meant here to do, you can't even occupy enough space to see yourself. Well, the reason I'm not doing this is because my boss wants me to do this and my child wants me to do this and my husband said that. I was like, what do you want? Well, I want, no, you don't. You want to talk about it. If I ask you what you want and you give me 20 reasons why other people are stopping you from doing that or meeting their needs is stopping you from doing that, it means you're not in line with your core values. And you need a life coach or a light lady therapist, which I strongly recommend, to help you get rid of some of this guilt and self-imposed invisibility. That's what busyness on behalf of other people is about. It's about guilt. And you gotta look at that because it's blocking your dreams. It's blocking your journey. It's good girl syndrome. It's exhausting. And more importantly, it's not where your ancestors crossed the ocean and suffered what they did. They did not go through all of that for you to stand around and be guilty and do work for, live with, have relationships with, act for people who do not value why you were put here, why they do not value you. It's actually just that simple. When you simplify it like that, my clients get really mad at me. But that's not what I said. I was like, I haven't heard anything about you. I've heard your boyfriend this and your daddy said this and da-da-da. I was like, let's look at you. What do you love? What are you proud of? What do you dream about? Make the list and start telling stories about them. I promise you this will change you. I promise it will change you. And regarding your question, Natasha, about how do you protect your work? Okay, I'm gonna get in your butt right now. What work? You're right. I don't know where to get started. Then you ask me how to protect my work. What work? You haven't written it yet. But you know what that question is? How to protect my work that I haven't written? It's a way to not write. It's a way to get in your own way. It's a way to stay present. 100 things that you love. 100 things that you're proud of. 100 things that make you laugh. And start telling stories about them. Write it in your pages. Record it. I don't care. Don't go back and edit it. Just spit it out. Right? 45 minutes of talking is 8 pages written. If you did that every day, you'd have hundreds of pages by the end of the month. You're worried about how to protect it. Nobody's going to see it but you. So why don't you worry about getting present and making the work? That's all I got, my beauties. Does anybody have any questions? Anything? Nothing? All right, y'all. Thank you for joining me. And I will see you soon. Sign up for my mailing list so you'll get updates about when Hillary or I are going to be live talking about and answering questions and talking about what's coming up in the new year and the Dreaming Out Loud technique. All right. Thank you, Natasha, for your questions. I sent you an email, Natasha, and I will also send you a copy of this recording since you were in class tonight. All right, guys. Good night. Coming to you from Marrakesh. Stay strong. Stay gifted. Stay in love.